He thought he was just rescuing a drowning woman. But that moment on the beach changed everything. What followed was not only love, but a legacy built on second chances. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world you are tuning in from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. The waves at Cannon Beach have been rough all morning, rolling higher than usual, their white crests crashing against the rocks with a steady roar. Leo Brewer had brought his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, for what was supposed to be a quiet day by the shore, a little driftwood collecting, maybe searching for starfish in the tide pools. But then he saw her, dark hair tangled in the surf, body limp, being dragged back toward deeper water. His heart lurched. Without a second thought, he sprinted toward the waves, Lily's scream barely audible over the ocean's roar. Leo hit the water hard. The cold bit through his jeans and work shirt, but he didn't slow down. He waded deeper, fighting against the pull of the tide. The woman's face was partially submerged, her lips already taking on a blue tint. He grabbed her under the arms and hauled her back, his boots slipping on the rocky bottom. The ocean didn't want to let her go. It pulled at her dress, her hair, her limbs. Leo dug his heels in and dragged her through the surf. By the time he got her to dry sand, his lungs were burning. He laid her flat and pressed his ear to her chest. Nothing. No breath. No heartbeat he could hear over the roar of his own pulse. His hands shook as he positioned them over her sternum. He'd taken a CPR class 3 years ago when Lily started swimming lessons. He prayed he remembered it right. He pushed down hard, counting compressions in his head. 15, 16, 17. Her ribs felt fragile under his palms. He tilted her head back, pinched her nose, and breathed into her mouth. Once, twice, back to compressions. Lily was crying somewhere behind him, but he couldn't stop. He couldn't let this woman die on a beach while his daughter watched. After what felt like hours, but was probably only a minute, the woman jerked. Water spilled from her mouth. She coughed violently, her whole body convulsing as she tried to breathe. Leo rolled her onto her side, supported her head as she vomited seawater onto the sand. Her eyes flew open, wild and terrified. She looked at Leo like he was the one who'd tried to kill her. "You're safe?" Leo said, his voice rough. "You're okay. Just breathe." But she wasn't okay, even as her breathing steadied. She kept looking past him, scanning the beach with panic in her eyes. Her dress was expensive, Leo noticed, the kind of thing that cost more than his truck payment. Her nails were manicured. There was a thin gold bracelet on her wrist that probably cost more than everything he owned. "Did you fall?" Leo asked. She stared at him for a long moment, then shook her head. Her voice came out as a rasp. "He pushed me." Leo's blood went cold. He looked back at the cliffs above the beach, but there was no one there, just rocks and wind and the cry of seagulls. Whoever had done this was already gone. Lily ran up then, throwing her arms around Leo's neck. "Daddy, is she dead?" "No, baby. She's going to be fine." Leo hoped that was true. The woman was shivering now, her teeth chattering so hard he could hear them. He pulled off his flannel shirt and wrapped it around her shoulders. Underneath, he just had a white undershirt, but he'd survive. "Can you walk? We need to get you to a hospital." She grabbed his wrist, her grip surprisingly strong. "No hospital. No police. Please. Ma'am, you almost died." "I know." Her eyes filled with tears. "But if you take me to a hospital, he'll find me, and next time he'll make sure I don't survive." Leo looked at the stranger on the beach, this woman in a $1,000 dress who was begging him not to save her the normal way. Every instinct told him to call 911 anyway, but something in her eyes stopped him. He'd seen that look before. His wife had that same look the day she told him she was leaving. The look of someone who'd already lost everything and was just trying to survive what came next. "Okay," Leo said quietly. "No hospital. But you need to get warm and dry or you'll go into shock." He helped her stand. She swayed on her feet, and he had to catch her before she fell again. Lily grabbed the woman's other hand without being asked, her small fingers wrapping around cold ones. Together, they walked back to Leo's truck in the parking lot. The woman didn't say anything during the drive back to Leo's house. She just stared out the window, wrapped in his flannel, leaving a puddle of seawater on his passenger seat. Lily sat in the back, uncharacteristically quiet. When they pulled into the driveway of Leo's small rental house, the woman finally spoke. "I'm Rose," she said, "and I don't have anywhere else to go." Leo looked at his house. It wasn't much. 2 bedrooms, peeling paint, a porch that needed fixing. But it was safe. And sometimes safe was all that mattered. "You can stay," he said, "as long as you need." He had no idea he'd just invited a billionaire into his home. And he had no idea that the man who tried to kill her was already looking for her. Rose sat at Leo's kitchen table wrapped in one of his old hoodies, 3 sizes too big. Her designer dress was hanging in the bathroom, dripping salt water into the tub. She looked smaller somehow, sitting there in his worn-out clothes, staring at the chipped mug of tea he'd made her. This wasn't the kind of kitchen she was used to. The tiles were cracked. The fridge hummed too loud, and there was a persistent drip from the faucet that Leo kept meaning to fix. But Rose looked more at peace than she had on the beach. Lily sat across from her, coloring at the table. She kept sneaking glances at Rose, like she was trying to figure out if their guest was a mermaid or a ghost. Finally, she pushed a drawing across the table. It was a stick-figure woman with wild black hair, standing next to a stick-figure man, and a small stick-figure girl. "That's you," Lily said, pointing at the woman. "And that's me and Daddy. We saved you." Rose's eyes filled with tears. She touched the drawing like it was something precious. "It's beautiful. Can I keep it?" Lily nodded enthusiastically. "I can make you more. I make lots of pictures." Leo watched him from where he stood at the counter, making grilled cheese sandwiches. He wasn't good at cooking, but grilled cheese he could manage. Usually, the first one came out burnt on one side, raw on the other. He scraped off the worst of it and tried again. Rose didn't seem to notice or care. When he set the plate in front of her, she ate like she hadn't seen food in days. "When did you last eat?" Leo asked. Rose had to think about it. "Yesterday morning, I think. Before..." She trailed off, her hand go to her throat like she could still feel the water filling her lungs. Leo didn't push. He made her another sandwich, this one only slightly burnt. Lily chattered away about her favorite things. The tide pools, her teacher, the cat that lived 2 houses down that she wasn't allowed to have. Rose listened to every word like it mattered. Like Lily's small world was the most interesting thing she'd ever heard. After lunch, Leo showed Rose a spare room. It used to be his office, back when he thought he'd have time for an office. Now it was mostly storage. Boxes of Lily's old toys, his tools, a twin bed shoved against the wall. He cleared off the bed and found clean sheets that didn't quite match. "It's not much," he said. "It's perfect." Rose sat on the edge of the bed, running her hand over the faded quilt. "Thank you for all of this. You don't even know me. I know you needed help." Leo leaned against the doorframe, his arms crossed. "But I think you should tell me what happened. Who pushed you?" Rose was quiet for a long time. Outside, they could hear Lily playing in the yard, talking to herself in that way kids do. Finally, Rose spoke. "His name is Marcus. We were together for 2 years. I thought..." She laughed bitterly. "I thought he loved me. Turns out he loved my father's money more." "Your father's money?" "My father died 6 months ago. Harrison Schreiber. He owned Schreiber Industries." She watched Leo's face for recognition, but his expression stayed blank. "You've never heard of him." "Should I have?" Rose smiled for the first time since he'd pulled her from the water. "No, that's actually really nice." She took a breath. "My father left me everything. The company, the properties, the foundation, billions of dollars. And suddenly everyone in my life started looking at me differently. Like I wasn't Rose anymore, just a bank account with legs. Leo understood that feeling, not the $1 billion part, but the part about people seeing you as something other than human. His wife had looked at him that way near the end, like he was just an obstacle to whatever life she really wanted. Marcus was the worst, Rose continued. He proposed 3 months after my father died, said all the right things about wanting to help me carry the burden. But I found out he'd been talking to my father's old business partners, planning how to restructure the company once we were married, once he had access to everything. Her voice hardened. I broke it off 2 days ago, told him I knew what he was planning. This morning, he called and said he wanted to talk, so we could work it out. I met him at the cliffs because I thought... She shook her head. I don't know what I thought. That he'd apologize, maybe. Instead, he told me I was making a mistake, that no one would believe me over him. And then he pushed me. Jesus, Leo said quietly. He probably thinks I'm dead. The currents at Cannon Beach, the rocks, most people wouldn't survive. But you did, because you were there. Rose looked up at him, and Leo saw something in her eyes he recognized. Gratitude, yes, but also relief. The relief of being seen as a person instead of prize. What about you? Why were you at the beach with Lily? Where's her mother? Leo's jaw tightened. Gone. She left a note on the fridge 18 months ago. Said she couldn't do this anymore. The struggling, the small town life, all of it. Haven't heard from her since. I'm sorry. Don't be. We're better off. He meant it. Lily was happier now than she'd been in years. Rose nodded like she understood. And maybe she did. Maybe they both knew what it felt like to be left behind by people who were supposed to stay. Listen, if you've made it this far in the story, you're invested. You want to know what happens to them. But here's the thing. Most people scroll past these stories without subscribing. They watch, they enjoy, and they disappear. If this story matters to you, if you actually care how it ends, hit that subscribe button, please. It takes 2 seconds. And if you don't, you'll probably forget about this channel and never hear another amazing story from me. Rose had been living with him for 2 weeks when things started to feel normal. She folded laundry on the couch while Leo fixed a cabinet door. She helped Lily with homework at the kitchen table, her pen moving across math problems with surprising patience. She even learned how to make Leo's favorite coffee, the cheap kind from the grocery store that she would have turned her nose up at in her old life. Now, she drank it black every morning and said it tasted better than anything her private chef had ever made. Leo tried not to think about how right it felt having her there, how Lily smiled more, laughed easier, how the house felt less empty with Rose moving through it in her borrowed clothes and bare feet. He tried not to notice the way she looked at him sometimes, like he was something rare and valuable. He was just a contractor who could barely make rent. She was a billionaire hiding from a man who wanted her dead. It couldn't last. Leo was working a job in Portland when Marcus found him. A kitchen renovation for a client who wanted granite countertops and backsplash tile that cost more per square foot than Leo made in a day. He was measuring the space for new cabinets when a man in an expensive suit walked through the door. Leo knew who he was immediately. Rose had shown him a picture on her phone, warning him to be careful. Marcus Trent looked exactly like the kind of man who would push a woman off a cliff, handsome in that polished way, with perfectly styled hair and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. He walked through the unfinished kitchen like he owned it, his shoes clicking on the subfloor. Leo Brewer? Marcus asked, though he clearly already knew the answer. Who's asking? A friend of Rose Scheiber's. I've been looking for her. Heard she might be staying with you. Leo set down his tape measure. He straightened up slowly, meeting Marcus's eyes. Don't know anyone by that name. Marcus laughed. It was the kind of laugh that made Leo's hands curl into fists. Come on, Leo. Let's not play games. I know she's with you. Neighbors saw her at your house. Woman with dark hair, expensive tastes, doesn't quite fit in your little rental property. Get out of my job site. I'm trying to help her, Marcus said, his voice smooth. She's not well. Hasn't been since her father died. She gets confused, makes accusations, sees threats that aren't there. She needs professional help, medical care, the kind of care you can't provide in your two-bedroom house. That's not what happened, and you know it. Marcus's smile dropped. What did she tell you? Enough. And you believed her? A woman you've known for 2 weeks over someone who was in her life for 2 years. Marcus stepped closer. Let me guess. She's playing the victim. Scared and helpless. Maybe she even cried a little. Women like Rose are good at that. Making men feel like heroes. You push her off a cliff. I did no such thing. Rose fell. I tried to help her, but she panicked and ran. By the time I got down to the beach, she was gone. I've been sick with worry. Marcus pulled out his phone, showing Leo a screen full of unanswered calls and texts. See? I've been trying to reach her for weeks. If you're keeping her from getting help, you're putting her in danger. Leo wanted to punch him. His fingers itched with it. But he had Lily to think about. A record. He couldn't afford to lose his temper, no matter how much this man deserved it. She doesn't want your help, Leo said evenly. And she's not going back to you. Marcus's expression hardened. Do you know what you're interfering with? The Schreiber estate is worth billions. Rose has responsibilities, a company to run, a foundation that employs thousands of people. She can't just hide out playing house with some nobody contractor and his kid. She can do whatever she wants. No, she can't. Marcus leaned against the unfinished counter, casual as anything. I have lawyers, Leo. Good ones. If I tell them Rose is being held against her by someone who's after her money, they'll believe me. I have proof of our relationship, text messages, photos. What do you have? A drowning woman and a good deed. I have the truth. The truth is what I say it is. I have resources you can't imagine. I can make your life very difficult. Your business license, your custody of that little girl, your reputation in this town. All of it can go away with a phone call. Marcus pushed off the counter, adjusting his cuffs. Or you can be smart. Tell me where Rose is, and I'll make sure you're compensated for your trouble. Say, $50,000? That's more than you make in a year. Leo stared at him. This was the world Rose came from. A world where everything had a price. Where people were bought and sold and pushed off cliffs when they stopped being useful. Get out, Leo said quietly. And if you come near my house or my daughter, I'll kill you myself. Marcus smiled again. I'll take that as a no. He walked toward the door, then paused. You can't protect her forever, Leo. Eventually, she'll have to come back to reality. And when she does, I'll be waiting. After he left, Leo called Rose. His hands were shaking so hard, he almost dropped the phone. He knows, Leo said when she answered. He knows you're here. We need a plan. Rose stopped running. That's what she told Leo the night after Marcus showed up at his job site. She sat on his porch while Lily slept inside, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea. She wasn't drinking. She'd spent 2 weeks hiding, pretending she could just disappear into this small life and never look back. But Marcus had found her, and he'd keep finding her until she faced him. I have to go back, Rose said. Leo sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. Back where, to my life, the foundation, the company, all of it. I can't let him win by default. She finally looked at him. But I'm not going alone. And I'm not going to play by his rules anymore. The plan came together over the next 3 days. Rose made calls to lawyers she actually trusted, not the ones Marcus had connections to. She reached out to her father's old business partner, a woman named Catherine who had tried to warn her about Marcus months ago. She gathered evidence. Bank statements showing Marcus's attempts to access foundation accounts. emails where he discussed selling off parts of her father's company, text messages where he threatened her before the cliff. And she planned for the Bennett Foundation Gala, the annual event where the richest people in Portland gathered to write checks and feel good about themselves. Marcus would be there. He had to be. It was a kind of event where being absent would raise questions. Rose would be there too. And this time, she wouldn't be the quiet billionaire heiress who smiled and nodded while men made decisions about her life. Leo didn't want her to go. He said it was too dangerous, that Marcus could try something again, but Rose was done being afraid. She spent 2 weeks learning what it felt like to be safe, to be seen as a person instead of a bank account. Now she was going to fight for the right to keep feeling that way. The night of the gala, Leo put on the only suit he owned. It was 5 years old and tight across the shoulders, but it was clean. Rose wore a dress she'd had delivered, midnight blue and simple. Nothing like the flashy things she used to wear to these events. She looked at herself in Leo's bathroom mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. That was good. She didn't want to be that woman anymore. Lily cried when they left, holding on to Rose's hand. "You're coming back, right?" Rose knelt down, not caring about the dress. "I promise. Your dad and I will be back before you wake up tomorrow." The gala was held at the Portland Art Museum, all marble floors and champagne glasses, and people who'd never worked a real day in their lives. Leo fell out of place immediately, but Rose held his hand and walked him like she owned the building, which Leo realized she probably did in some financial sense. Marcus saw them immediately. His face went pale, then red. He started walking toward them, but Rose was faster. She walked straight to the microphone at the front of the room, the one set up for the foundation director's speech. She didn't wait for an introduction. "My name is Rose Scheiber," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "Most of you knew my father, Harrison Scheiber. He built this foundation to help people who couldn't help themselves. Tonight, I'm here to tell you that someone tried to kill me 3 weeks ago so he could control my father's legacy." The room went completely silent. Rose told them everything. The cliff, the water, how Marcus had planned to take over the company after their wedding. She showed them the evidence on the screen behind her, emails and bank statements that Catherine's lawyers had compiled. She named him in front of everyone who mattered in their world. Marcus tried to leave. 2 security guards stopped him at the door. Catherine had made sure of that. When it was over, Rose announced her plans for the foundation, a community center in Cannon Beach, built by a local contractor named Leo Brewer, a place where people could learn trades, get help, find safety, a place that would actually do what her father intended. The crowd didn't know whether to applaud or call the police. They did both. 3 months later, Leo stood on the construction site of the Rose Scheiber Community Center, watching his crew frame the walls. Rose was there too, wearing jeans and one of his old flannel shirts, talking to the electrician about wiring. Lily was at school, probably drawing pictures of the new building. Marcus was in jail awaiting trial. The evidence had been too strong, the witnesses too credible. He'd spend the next decade behind bars if Rose's lawyers had anything to say about it. Rose walked over to Leo, sawdust in her hair. She looked happy, real happy, not the fake kind she'd worn in her old life. "What do you think?" she asked, gesturing at the building. "I think we're building something good." "We are." She leaned against him, and Leo put his arm around her shoulders. It felt natural now, like they'd been doing this for years instead of months. They got married 6 months later. Small ceremony on the beach where he pulled her from the water. Lily was the flower girl. She threw petals everywhere and didn't care about staying in the lines. Leo never got used to Rose's money. He still drove his old truck, still worked construction jobs, still lived in the same rental house, until Rose finally convinced him to buy it. The billions sat in accounts and foundations, doing the work Rose's father had intended. Leo and Rose lived on what he made, what they built together with their own hands. Happiness wasn't in the grand moments, They learned. It was in burnt grilled cheese and mismatched coffee mugs. It was in Lily's drawings on the fridge and Saturday mornings at the beach. It was in choosing to stay when leaving would have been easier. It was in being seen, finally, for exactly who you were. This story teaches us that true wealth isn't measured in bank accounts, but in the authenticity of our relationships and the courage to start over. Rose discovered that being valued for who you are, not what you have, is the foundation of real connection. Leo showed that protection and love don't require resources, just presence and integrity. Together, they learned that healing comes from building a life based on honest values rather than external expectations, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose a simple, genuine life over a complicated, hollow one. Some of you are not just listening to this story. You are remembering parts of your own life. You worked long hours. You came home tired and tried to hold a house together, believing there would always be time later for conversations. Then one day you realize children grow up quietly, and some chances don't come back. Many of you have also seen things you never really spoke about. People you expected to grow old beside are gone, and life simply kept moving while you carried it privately. You showed up. You provided. You stayed. That matters more than you were ever told. I put together a small book about fathers and children, the distance that sometimes forms, and the small things that can still change how the relationship turns out over time. If it feels like something you want to look at, the link is in the description. So here's the real question. Did you subscribe yet? Thousands of people will listen to this story and won't subscribe. Please don't be that person. Please subscribe to this channel, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. And here's what I need to know. Do you want part 2?